do we buy based on influences? Do you think our behavior gets influenced? The answer is yes. Our behavior gets influenced by a host of factors, which are broadly classified as internal factors and external factors. So we do buy products being influenced by both these factors. We will discuss complete list of internal factors and complete list of external factors and how they influences your behavior when you buy things. We have internal factors, that means within, and external factors, somebody from outside. Now let's discuss these factors one by one. First begin with internal factors. So when we say internal factors, as I mentioned, it comes from within. Personality is an important factor. So what is personality? The answer is personality is a combination of certain traits. It defines your character. So personality does not only mean your physical structure, your physique, it also means your mental qualities. So it's a combination of both that shapes your personality. And your personality is shaped based on how you were brought up by your parents, the school in which you completed your education, your friend circle. All this shapes your personality. Your teachers also play an important role in shaping your personality. So our purchases, what we buy, also gets highly influenced by our personality type. What are some of the personality types? Now, personality types can also be classified on certain common attributes. Even though we say every person is unique, every individual is different, but there are certain common attributes, what the psychologists have found in every generation that has gone by and the generations which are coming up and the present generations. So psychologists have done classification of personality based on the generations. So the first category in this is called baby boomers. Now, what kind of personality or individual traits or characteristics baby boomers have? Now, baby boomers might sound a funny title for you, but that's the title given by the psychologists for those people who are born in this period between 1946 to 1964. So people who are born in this period, they are called baby boomers. And according to psychologists, all baby boomers have certain personality type. So probably your grandparents would fall under this category. So what are the personality traits? So most of them who belong to this generation, they are achievement oriented, which means they have goals in their life and they want to achieve those goals. So they work hard towards achieving those goals. So goals can be buying a house, marriage, children, education, all these are goals. They are very confident, they are very career focused, and they are very responsible. So these are some of the typical attributes of people who are born in this era. The next one comes Generation X. Now, Generation X, the duration is between 1965 to 1980. So probably most of your parents would definitely fit into this generation category. And you are, I mean, you better know the attributes or the personality types of your parents. So people who are born in this generation, they value freedom. That means they need some sort of freedom. But of course, given when they're given freedom, they are responsible. They don't misuse the freedom, right? So they value freedom, but they don't misuse. And as far as the adaptation of technology is concerned, they are okay. They're not well versed with using gadgets and all the other technology. They are okay, right? So they can manage. And a typical attribute is that they work to live and they don't live to work. So that was in the previous generation, right? So the entire purpose of life is to work. But here, the concept is that you're working because you want to live. But there, the perception was God has made you to, God has created you to work. So that's the difference in the perception. Now comes generation Y. So I'm sure you don't belong to this generation going by the age group. So definitely not. Probably some of your teachers, including me, would come under this category. So what are the personality types? Technologically savvy, which means we have embraced technology much better than the older generations. And we are independent. That means we want freedom. We don't want our parents to always monitor us, tell us what you should do, what you should not do. So we want lesser intervention because we value freedom. Enigmatic, that means quite energetic, and most importantly, global in perspective. So that attitude of being very conservative, that attitude of blindly following religious beliefs, that is not typically found by and large in most of the people who are born in this generation. So this generation is more extrovert, more expressive, more open minded. That's the reason that I think that's a better word to use, global in perspective. Now, what about you guys? What is your generation called? Your generation is called Generation Z or Generation Z. So, what are typical attributes you people have in your personality type? So, you're more realistic, not idealistic, because older generations used to have certain ideology. Okay, that okay, I'll not do these things because it is morally incorrect, because these are ethically incorrect. So people used to have certain personal values and they used to do things guided by their personal values. So if their personal values tells them, okay, don't drink alcohol, they wouldn't drink. If their personal values tells them, okay, you should marry a girl with whom you date, and to whom you date is the one you will marry. If that is your personal value, then you don't deviate from that. But the issue is that this generation, Generation Z, the personal values to a great extent have completely dissolved. And they don't believe in, first of all, ideologies, right? If you do good, good things will happen to you. So all that ideologies, to a great extent, people of this generation don't believe. And they love privacy. They demand privacy. And they don't trying new things. They don't mind taking risk. That is what defines the concept of entrepreneurial spirit. Who's called an entrepreneurial? Not somebody who starts business. The typical interpretation is somebody who's willing to do new things, somebody who's willing to take risk is called entrepreneur. So definitely your generation is willing to do that. And multitasking, doing too many things at a time. Probably I don't know what are the things you're doing at the time of listening to my lecture. And without technology, you can't survive. What about the next generation? Because here it says it ends in 2010. So what about your children, right? So what generation do your children belong to? The answer is they're called Generation Alpha, and they are the most complicated, most sophisticated generation, very materialistic, no personal values, no moral ethics, tech savvy, and better educated. Imagine your children will proudly say, my dad or my mom has done BCom, she has done ACCA, she has done MBA. Unfortunately, some of us are not able to say this for our parents and grandparents because some of our parents are first generation learners. In some of us are first generation learner because our parents would not have studied. But it won't be the case with your children because you are highly educated. So your children will get educated parents. So these are some of the typical attributes. Now the question is, why do I need to study this as a marketer? Why do I have to study your personality first of all? The answer is studying personality will give some perspective to the marketer about what he wants to sell, what he wants to market. Let's say after the smartphones evolved, the generation which got severely hit to a greater extent was baby boomers, because baby boomers are not comfortable with using smartphones. So what happened, since they are not technologically very sound, Philips came up with a very unique mobile phone which had big keypads and a very small screen, because baby boomers are not that comfortable with the technology and they need something which they can easily operate. And Philips came up with this unique mobile phone which was exclusively designed for this generation, because this generation in terms of personality, they are not good at all with the technology. Marketer needs to know, if he wants to target you for his product and services, it has to be on mobile phone. But he wants to target probably your dad or your grandparents, it has to be on television. So that's the reason it becomes extremely important to understand personality type. When it comes to spending money, you're absolutely careless, you're absolutely free flowing. But when it comes to spending money, parents are slightly stingy, parents are very cautious. So there is a difference. How we spend also depends on our personality. So therefore, it becomes very important to study the personality type. Do we buy what we are? Because generally what happens is marketers can use a consumer's personality as an opportunity to market their offerings by aligning their brand to personality variables. So what are personality variables, or what are personality attributes? So personality attributes includes self-confidence, dominance, autonomy or freedom, pride, humaneness, defensiveness, adaptability. These are some of the personality traits. And what marketers do is they try to relate their brand with our personality type. So marketers can portray that their brands also have personalities similar to us. And that's what we see on the screen here now, that Pulsar has always tried portraying as a dominant male personality. Gillette also focuses on men's personality. So certain brands do focus on gender-based personality. So that's what you see here. So personality does play an important role in what we buy, because the kind of personality you assume or you have, similar kind of products which you feel that a particular product which aligns to your personality, you end up buying such products. So marketers do make an attempt to try to match your personality type with their brand. So they try to create an identity of the brand which actually is based on personality type. Now, personality is one of the internal factors that influences what we buy. But apart from personality, of course, there are many other factors. Another important factor is the age group, what we belong to. So over the period of time, starting from our birth to our death, as we progress in our life cycle, our buying behavior, our spending pattern do get changed over a period of time. And it also depends on the needs that keeps evolving. The needs, what you have today as a teenager or adolescent, you might not have the same when you grow up, right? The needs what you have when you are bachelor might not be the same when you are a married person. So a person age is another internal influence on purchasing behavior, and depending on the age group of a consumer belonging, the need of the consumer is influenced. So people may have things in common and with others merely because about the same age. So most of the people who belong to the same age may have certain common uh, needs, right? Further, the consumption of goods is also determined by the current position in the family life cycle. And it is also important to note that purchasing habits fluctuate over a period of time with every generation and the age group. Keeping in mind the requirements of different age groups, what marketers do is they try to execute different marketing strategies for different age groups. So what we are about to discuss is called the traditional family life cycle and age groups, which means we are trying to reflect upon how our needs change, how what we buy change over a period of time depending on our age group. So I did mention that even though same age group people can have different personality also, but there are certain common attributes which all people belonging to a certain age group will have. And based on that, they also have a certain common needs. So sometimes marketers do recognize that the strategy for marketing can also be based on age groups, which becomes much easier for the marketer to do it. So what is the first stage in the traditional family life cycle? Now, the first stage is called bachelorhood. Now, you are in the stage. So, what defines this bachelorhood? So, bachelorhood is basically young single adult living apart from parents or with their parents or with their friends. So, some of you do stay with your parents, and sometimes it's a joint family, sometimes it's a nuclear family, and some of you stay away from your parents in hostels with your friends. So that's what defines bachelorhood. You're young adult, and as a young adult, definitely you need more freedom, you need more privacy. And what are your spending habits? So being a student, being a college student, all that money what you get, first of all, you don't have your source of income. Obviously you are dependent on your parents to give you all your money requirements to be fulfilled. It's done by your parents. So whatever money you do get in the form of pocket money and all that money you get from various sources does get spent on these avenues. So as a college going student, these are some of the popular avenues of spending, which includes a lot of money being spent on automobiles, because at this stage you want to commute, right? And you need to have your own personal transportation. So you always demand that your parents get you a bike or a scooter. So that's very common, especially for college going students. Now, apart from having your own automobile, you also want to spend a lot of money on your looks. You want to look good, right? So because of which a lot of money is being spent on your apparel, grooming, personal care products, so clothing, fashion, accessories, and also at this age you want some sort of entertainment, so a lot of money also being spent on recreation activities. And at this age group the socialization is all time high, so definitely you want to consume beverages. So beverage is one of the common uh, way of socializing, so that's used as a drink during socialization. So it can be both alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. And of course food, also an important component, especially for those people who are staying away from your home. So you do eat food outside on a regular basis. Vacations, something another, right? So you all want to go somewhere out with your friends. So you do plan up some sort of a excursion trip.
So these are some of the common avenues. So if I have to summarize this, at this age, most of the people do spend a lot of money on eating, shopping, dating. So these are the popular avenues. So what happens is, as a marketer, it becomes a major segment for me, considering the fact that India's majority population does fall under the age bracket of 18 to 24 years, is by and large the largest age group at the moment in India. So it provides a lot of opportunity for marketers to venture into these categories of segments, right? When we do a head-to-head comparison between the options that were available 20 years back and now, probably you can ask your parents during their time, most of these quick service restaurants did not exist. Most of the uh, beverage chains did not exist. So whether it is Starbucks, whether it is Costa Cafe, whether it is Barista, right? Whether it is Cafe Coffee Day, whether it is Starbucks. So all this did not exist at that time for various reasons. And similarly, your quick service restaurants, whether it is McDonald's, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, Pizza Corner, Aupo Pan, uh, Burger King, KFC, all this did not exist at that time. And they did not have the choice, the kind of choice what you people have. So if you want to buy a bike, you have plenty of choices. Whether you want an Indian made or whether you want a foreign made, both Indian and foreign brands are available. So why at that time this much of choice did not exist? The answer is, during those days, the economic situation of the country was totally different. Now the economic situation has completely changed. Standard of living has improved a lot. Per capita income has increased, disposable income has gone up. So some of the macroeconomic variables have completely changed, and these macroeconomic variables are actually now quite favorable. Since the macroeconomic variables are quite favorable, obviously people have a lot of money to spend. Purchasing power is all time high. And that's one of the reasons why so many marketers have ventured into these segments, whether it is fashion and clothing, alcohol beverages, whether it is food. So that's the reason you have so much of choice, because of macroeconomic variables. And second is the demographic variable, because people of your age group is the highest category what we have in our population. So marketers do examine factors like this before they venture into uh, any kind of business. What happens after this stage? Now, the next stage in the traditional family life cycle age group might sound little funny, because according to me there's one stage which is being skipped, but nonetheless this is the second stage. What happens after you complete your graduation, after you complete your studies, is that you either start working, by and large most of you would start working, or join your parents in case if they have any kind of business. So once you start earning, that means you have access to a lot of financial resources, and that is where you spend more money on the same things. So probably your father would have got you a very normal basic bike, but now since you're earning on your own and you do have access to a lot of money, and therefore you want to upgrade, right? So you spend first 3 months in any multinational company, immediately credit card companies would also approach you. So the moment you get a credit card, that means now you have more power to spend. So after you start working, again you start spending a lot of money on these things. So a lot of money is being spent on automobile. Again, you want to buy a lot of clothes, apparels for yourself, grooming products. You want to socialize, you want to go out, right? But anyways, that stage, according to this, is also a part of your bachelorhood. So the next stage is wherein you lose your bachelorhood, and obviously you're getting married. So it is called the honeymooners stage. What happens in this honeymooner stage? How does your spending habit, how does your spending pattern gets changed? First of all, who are these honeymooners? Honeymooners are basically newly married couple, or we can also say young married couples without children. So most of the young married couple, again, where do they spend most of the money on? So there are certain common areas where these category spends a lot of money on. So the first avenue is socialization again, because given the fact that in India we have a system of arranged marriages, so obviously you want to get to know each other. And in order to get to know each other, the best ways to socialize is to go out to eat food. So at this stage, you're eating food outside. So whether it is spending your entire weekend on going outside, shopping is another very popular uh, avenue for young married couple to spend a lot of money on. And then, of course, a lot of money also gets spent on acquiring home appliances, furniture, utensils, and other household items, because you have started your own family, right? So therefore you need all this. So you have to set up your own house, so you spend a lot of money on major, minor home appliances, household furniture, and utensils. So a lot of money gets spent on this avenue. So all of a sudden there is a shift, right? There is a shift. You're no longer spending a lot of money with your friends, but a lot of money is being spent with your spouse. So all of a sudden there is a drastic shift. Now what happens after this stage? Obviously you will become a parent. So the next stage is called parenthood. And this stage begins with arrival of the first child and parents being to change their roles in the family. Excuse me. So the moment you become a parent, there is a drastic change on your spending pattern. So you're no longer going out with your partner for dining, for shopping, for entertainment. All of this completely stops. And now there is a drastic shift. Now, the moment a child is born, the spending is more on these items. So a lot of money is being spent on baby food, medicines. Obviously, since the newborn is quite vulnerable to the external environment, and the immunity system is also developing, not fully developed. So obviously they would fall ill quite often, and therefore you need to visit doctor also quite often, right, to get your child's health addressed, and also vaccination would also be there. So that's where again a lot of money gets spent. And then of course diaper, toys and games. So this goes on, right? So this goes on, and probably this also includes one of the most major expenses, which is the admission of your child. So you also want to enroll your child in the pre-nursery or babysitting. So that's another area where you want to spend a lot of money on. And then you also realize that since you're married, now you have more responsibilities on your shoulders. So somewhere down the memory, you also are thinking to secure your family by buying an insurance for yourself and also for the other family members. So this is what parenthood is all about. Next is called matured parents. In matured parents, obviously, it means that your children have grown up and they have reached an age wherein they are now in the higher education level. So when we say a higher education level, so it can be higher secondary school, or it can be uh, probably degree program, right? So I would say that this stage called mature parents is probably the stage in which your parents are right now. So you can put yourself in your parents' place, matured parents, the stage is called, and think where do they spend a lot of money on. So you will get an answer easily, because this is something which you can relate to with yourself and your parents. So matured parents, children are studying in higher education, which means they are doing their graduation or post-graduation program. And here at this stage, similar to what your parents do, most of the purchasing is done by keeping in requirement of the family. So it's not the individual preference, but here the preference shifts to, if I buy something, in what way does it help the family? So that is the consideration. And even in case if money is being spent on individual, there is obviously a more critical evaluation. So purchasing takes place keeping in entire family's requirements in mind. Spending on food, clothes of the teenager. So a lot of money is being spent on you, on your higher education, right? And purchase of consumer durables also continues at this stage. So this is the fourth stage called matured parents. Now, the next stage also seems to be quite interesting. It is called parents with mature children. Obviously, children would have completed their studies and they are now earning on their own. So they are already employed in some company or they are doing business. So they are totally independent now. And your parents would probably retire at this stage. So here at this stage, your parents would probably spend on refurnishing of the house, probably whatever money they have saved, accumulated, or whatever retirement funds they get. So that gets spent on again refurnishing of home, food, travel, because at this stage probably parents would be almost free from all their responsibilities because children would have also got married. So therefore travel also becomes an essential part of life at this stage, holidays. And at this stage, parents also spend a lot of money on presenting gift to their grandchildren, right? So this is the highlight of parents with mature children. And the last stage is called dissolution. What happens in dissolution? Obviously, either one of the person would die, either husband or wife would depart. So it becomes one surviving wife. And here you are probably more dependent on your children to take care of uh, parents are more dependent on children to take care of their needs. So the needs can be frequent doctor checkups, hospitalization, maintenance of diet, health, medicines. So all these are areas of spending. So this is called the traditional family cycle. So the point here is that age and life cycle has potential impact on consumer buying behavior. And obviously, consumers change the purchase of goods and services with the passage of time. So you don't continue to buy the same things what you used to do it in your bachelorhood when you're in the dissolution stage. So obviously you can see that there is a drastic change. So marketers do study this, and in fact, they also do study the overall demographic environment. Demography is the study of population. So when you do a head-to-head comparison between a country like India and Canada, there is a big difference because in India, most of the population by far majority falls under the young category. Probably they'll fall under bachelorhood and honeymooners. On the other hand, when we do a study of Canada's demographic environment, you would find most of their population falls under the last two categories, parents with mature children or dissolution. So obviously the kind of products that are being marketed, the kind of companies that are operating are right totally different. So studying age groups also does helps marketer to figure out what is the market like, right? So what is the best product that can be marketed. And from a consumer point of view, from a consumer behavior point of view, we buy depending on our age group. So these are some of the things which you need to understand from age group and how age group and traditional family life cycle is interrelated with each other. Now, another important internal factor that persuades us, that drives us to consume certain products is the motivation. In fact, motivation is the ultimate factor, I would say, because if there is no motivation, obviously there will not be any kind of purchases. So what exactly is motivation? In simple words, motivation is the willingness of someone to do something, right? And why is this someone wants to do something? Because there is a stimulus, there is an urge, there is a persuasion of desire, right? So that's the reason you want to do something. So an individual may have needs. So depending on various needs, he gets motivated. But what we want to know is what is motivation in the context of consumer behavior? So the answer to this question is in the context of consumer behavior, right? Motivation is a driver that drives a consumer to satisfy his needs and wants, both biological needs and physiological needs, through the purchase and use of products and services. So what motivates you? What drives you? What are the factors that influences you to satisfy your biological and physiological needs is what is called motivation, right? So marketers need to understand what motivates you, because if they understand what motivates you, then definitely they can trigger that button to motivate you. So obviously understanding the motivational factor is quite important. So once marketers understand the type of needs driving consumption, they can easily influence buying decision of a consumer. So therefore motivation factors when fulfilled give rise to the consumer satisfaction. So what motivates you to eat food? The answer is hunger. What motivates you to drink a beverage? The answer is thirst. What motivates you to have a good sleep? The answer is probably all the kind of stress what you undergo from morning to evening, the kind of environment in which you're living. It can be mental stress also. So probably you are doing a job which has a lot of mental strain, or probably you're doing a job which has a lot of physical strain, because of which you want always a good sleep. So you don't mind spending money on something that gives you good sleep. So probably you will end up buying a very expensive mattress from Kurlon or from uh, other brands, because for you sleep is very important. Probably you'll end up buying an air condition because air condition is extremely important for you to have that peaceful sleep. So what is motivating you to buy an air conditioner? What is motivating you to buy an expensive luxury mattresses? The answer is the kind of work what you're into. Either the work which is giving you a lot of mental stress or a work which is giving you a lot of physical stress. So there has to be some trigger, some factor that is pushing you towards buying these kind of products. So that is what we call in marketing as motivation. So without motive or without motivation, obviously you wouldn't buy these things. And it clearly identifies that motivation can be biological or it can be psychological. When we say biological, it basically means for your body needs, right? So I was telling you about air conditioner and mattresses. Obviously, it's for your body needs, but there are things we buy for our psychological needs also. So let's say you probably are buying an Apple iPhone for a simple reason that most of the friends you have in your friend circle, they all are extremely rich and they all have Apple iPhone. Now, even other phone would also serve the purpose, but you want only that brand. So this has to do more with psychological need. So you want a particular brand because you're somewhere trying to relate it to your status, your prestige. So that is more of a psychological needs. So motivation can be for your biological needs or it can be for your psychological needs also. So that's also a point. Now, education is a service, or you can also say it's a product. So you want to study BCom, right? But BCom can be studied through various means. You could have done BCom in a government college, which would have saved a lot of money for your parents. And of course, in order to learn something, first of all, you don't have to actually come to a college. You can learn whatever you want through various other means. You can go to library, public libraries, and study and learn and acquire knowledge on something or area of your interest. And of course, the biggest source of learning can also be internet. So the whole purpose of doing graduation is to seek knowledge, is to improvise on your skills, for which there are various means and sources. Of course, you could have done this in a government college. Of course, you could have done this in any other college. But obviously, students sometimes are very particular about the college in which they want to study. They don't want to compromise on the college. So that becomes a psychological factor. If a student say, no, no, I want to do my graduation only in Christ University, I want to study only at St. Joseph's College, I want to do only in Mount Carmel's College. So if you are specific about a particular brand, then it becomes more of a psychological obsession, right? So sometimes we do buy to, right, satisfy our psychological needs. So therefore, marketers have to understand that what is triggering this motivation, right? So if they understand what triggers that motivation, they can easily persuade you to consume their products and services. So when we say motivation, obviously there is one very popular and renowned theory of motivation. I'm sure you would have studied this somewhere in management or in HRM, human resource management. This is called Maslow's need hierarchy theory. I'm sure you have heard of this. So Maslow has developed a model, and in his model he explains that we all have these needs, and there is a manner in which we pursue these needs. So he says that needs can be broadly classified into 5 segments. First one is called physiological needs. So these are bodily needs, or you can also call them as biological needs. Example, hunger is a need, physiological needs. It is required for your body. So you have to eat food. Then comes your safety needs, social needs, self-esteem needs, self-actualization. So what Maslow is trying to say is that we follow a hierarchy. Now let's say somebody who is still struggling to meet his basic needs would obviously not aim for a higher need. So unless your basic needs are not satisfied, you wouldn't go for a higher needs. So this is what Maslow is trying to say in his need hierarchy theory. Why is this relevant for us in marketing? Is because in marketing, obviously all the marketers aim at satisfying the needs of the consumers. That is what marketing is all about: identifying, anticipating, and satisfying the needs of the consumers profitably. So basically, Maslow is telling you about the needs, the human needs, its classification, and how do they pursue these needs, what motivates them to satisfy their needs, right? So Maslow says this is the hierarchy, and everybody follows this hierarchy. Somebody who has not eaten for the last 4 or 5 weeks, if he gets 500 rupees, what would he do? Would he first eat, or would he go to watch a movie in PVR? The answer is definitely he will not go to PVR to watch movie. First, he will satisfy his physiological needs. So unless we don't satisfy these needs, we don't think ahead. So we don't think about the higher needs. So this is the first and foremost important need. Or let's say uh, you are about to get a surprise from your father, your dad, that he is actually planning to take you to, uh, let's say, for a very nice dinner, right? They are planning, your father is planning to take you and your mom to a nice dinner, probably candlelight dinner in a very good restaurant, probably at the Leela Palace. right? A 7-star luxury hotel. So you're quite excited. But unfortunately, what happens on that day when your father says that, okay, surprise, we are going to the Leela Palace. Unfortunately, you have an extremely severe headache, which is actually troubling you a lot. You definitely decline your father's invitation, even though it's a very good option, very good opportunity for you to go there because you have never been to a 7-star luxury hotel, but still you're declining. Why? Why are you declining? Headache. What is headache? Physiological issue. So for you, first thing is to get rid of that headache, and other things comes next. So your bodily need is first. Your father wants you to take to a 5-star hotel. That's a social need because you want to socialize, get together as a family. But what is more important is your physiological needs. You want to get rid of that headache. So how do you get rid of that headache? The answer is you can take Action 500. You can take Saridon. So there are a host of pharmaceutical companies that try to persuade you through their advertisements that if you have a headache, you should always take this. So that's where they are trying to trigger and trying to understand your need, that this is something basic. So you will not never compromise on this. So unless your physiological needs are not met, you will definitely not climb the hierarchy. So this is something which marketers need to know. Marketer needs to know for your physiological needs, what kind of products they can offer. For your safety needs, what kind of product needs to be offered. So once you're done with your physiological needs, that means you are in a financially, you're in a position wherein financially you're easily able to meet physiological needs of you and your family members, then you will think of safety needs. So what are safety needs? Okay, I don't have a house, so I should buy one. I don't have an insurance, I should buy one. I have a house, but unfortunately it does not have a safety camera, and there are a lot of thefts going on in and around the neighborhood, right? I need to buy a plan to secure my daughter's or son's future. I need to invest in mutual funds. I need to save for my retirement. All these are products that caters to what? Safety needs. And that is what most of these companies, marketers also do. Whenever they're trying to target your safety needs, they first always try to create a fear in you. They try to scare you, saying that what will happen to your future if you don't save? What will happen during your retirement if you don't save? What will happen to your child's education if you don't save? What happens to your family if you die? So they try to create a fear to push for their product. So that is where your safety needs gets triggered and you end up buying all these products. So these are your safety needs. Then you also have socializing or socialization needs. Man is a social animal, something which you have heard quite often. So obviously we want to socialize because we live in community. We don't live alone, right? So we want to socialize with our friends, our family members, our relatives. Now, in order to socialize, what are some of the important prerequisites? You want to socialize because you want to belong to a certain group, right? You want to get affection, you want to get love from your friends and family members. But we have set a prerequisite in our mind that whenever we want to socialize, there are certain prerequisites. And what are those prerequisites? Let me ask you a question. Why do you spend a lot of money on grooming? You want to have endless list of cosmetic products. You want to have huge collection of wardrobe at your home. You want to have every latest fashionable clothes in your wardrobe, right? Why? The answer is you want to look good. You want to look better. Why do you want to look good and better? Because when you meet others, you want to create an impression. So there are two things. One is called the self-image. First, you want to look good for yourself. And second, you want to be presentable in front of others. So that is where you want to be more presentable whenever you're socializing, whenever you're meeting others. And that is where marketing companies jump into picture. They tell you, you look good if you use this. You will be fit if you eat this. You will look beautiful if you apply this. You will look fair if you use this cream. You look extremely well if you have good hair by using this shampoo. You look beautiful by wearing these clothes. All these are aimed at targeting your social needs. And then, of course, the next need in the hierarchy is your self-esteem. And this is basically you want to show off. You want to prove that you have a certain status in the society. You want to prove that you belong to an elite class. You want to differentiate yourself from others. You want to prove that you're superior. And obviously, in order to prove that you're superior, you have to prove that others are inferior. And these kind of thoughts definitely emerge in your mind. And that is where you want to buy products. You want to buy those brands which actually puts you ahead of others in terms of prestige, in terms of your social status. And that is where certain brands, they position themselves in such a way that they draw a clear distinction between their brand and other brands. So these brands becomes a symbol of luxury. And if you use this brand, it tells your status in the society, right? If I come to your college, St. Joseph's College in Tata Nano, what does it indicates about my social and economic status? On the other hand, if I come to St. Joseph's College in Lamborghini or in a Ferrari car, what does it implies? So there is a clear distinction. The vehicle what I use, the brand what I use, it directly tells you about my social status. Right? I might wear an ordinary Titan watch, but what if I'm wearing a Rolex on my wrist? It talks about my social status, right? So these are called esteem needs, right? Then you also have self-actualization, which is quite difficult to define because it is different for different people. So self-actualization is a stage wherein you feel that you have all that is needed for a human being. You have achieved. And therefore now you're in a pursuit of doing something which you feel you have not done. So some people, they feel that, okay, they have done everything. They have acquired all the wealth which is needed. They have all luxury which they wanted. But unfortunately, they did not feel on, they did not succeed on spiritual front. So they try to spend the rest of their life in spirituality, seeking God. So for them, that's self-actualization. For some, philanthropy is self-actualization. All that wealth, what they have, they now realize that at the time of living this world, you're not going to take any of this materialistic possessions. Obviously, when you die, you have to leave everything. So therefore, they end up taking charity, philanthropy, right? Some people try to do things which they could not do it because of their busy schedule, because they were running behind wealth. Now they want to follow their interest. So their interest might be cooking, interest might be music, sports, travel, adventure. So this is called the self-actualization stage. So the bottom line is that motivation is extremely important in consumer behavior because it's the motivation that drives people to buy things. So we will stop here.